The matter has been postponed until the 5th of June 2024 for pre-trial purposes. So a number of aspects raised in this regard as the matter was put forward. We'll get you some legal analysis shortly just to get a sense of the reasoning behind the postponement and the issues that were put to the forefront today. But what we did here is accused number 7, who is Thabo Bester's legal representative, saying that Bester is a chronic patient who needs medication for his diabetes. He refused to have his food this morning, and that, of course, he couldn't eat it because the food was going to spike his sugar levels because it was rich in carbohydrates and sugar. And the matter of food, phone calls and clothing being one, taking quite a big chunk of today's proceedings as the postponement was also being announced. And, of course, talking a little bit about the legal representatives, which have been switched and swapped, and others saying that their mandate has come to an end, and Zimbabwe National Zando Moyo's legal representative withdrawing, and now he will be represented by Machini Mutloung. And, of course, let's bring in Nthabiseng Dubazana, who is waiting on the line, our legal expert, just to weigh in on what has transpired. Nthabiseng, welcome to you again. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Let's talk about the postponement. The matter has been postponed to the 5th of June as this court, we heard quite a bit of prosecutor for the state advocate Amanda Bester saying that today, in fact, was a waste of time because of the number of issues that needed to be dealt with. Why the postponement?
Mainly because of the legal representatives that have topped and changed, have been appointed, mandate terminated, all of those things. So it means that the new attorneys don't actually have instructions for today. So they never had an opportunity to consult with their clients based on the docket content that the previous attorneys probably already had. So as a result, there is no way that we can deal with the preliminary issues before the matter is heard. And then we have other attorneys who only received instructions this morning. So obviously they wouldn't even be in possession of any docket or any documentation. So that is why it was a waste of time. And had they communicated this to the state in advance, it would have been a situation where the matter would have been removed from the roll and re-enrolled at a later stage once all the legal representative issues have been dealt with and all of these things that we were seeing today, so that when we do come to court, we come into court for something that actually makes sense.
Yeah. Accused number 7, of course, being Thabo Bester. We know that his legal representative stood up to talk to some issues around 3 factors: food, phone calls and clothing. And in fact, right at the end there, we heard Judge Joseph Mhlambi speaking and highlighting the importance of one of the big aspects being phone calls, saying that, it's a fundamental constitutional matter. It's his right to be allowed a phone call. And prosecutor Amanda Bester really just saying that insofar as food is concerned and clothing, she spoke about how the food aspect is the responsibility of correctional services, and that accused number 7, should we not forget, let us not forget that he's a sentenced prisoner, so he cannot wear whatever he wants. He's awaiting trial, but he's still a sentenced prisoner. Distinguishing between the two is something that, is of importance.
Yes, 100%. But in terms of the constitutional aspect of Thabo Bester, even though he is an awaiting trial person who's also been convicted, he has that right to be presumed, quote unquote, innocent in this particular matter. So if you bring the accused dressed in orange overalls, it gives the presiding officer the impression that even if I were to find this person not guilty, it's irrelevant anyway, they are sentenced. So they need to appear to the court as if they are not yet convicted, even though they have a previous conviction. The court will only have access to the SAP 69s of the accused persons at the end of the trial. when we are dealing with mitigating and aggravating circumstances. So this is now to prevent that assumption, or to put in the mind of the court that it doesn't matter what you say about this particular accused person, they're still guilty, they're still serving time in any event, so you can find them guilty in any event. So that is particularly the aspect of constitutionality when it comes to the clothing. The phone call, yes, 100%, you have a right to communicate with your legal representative without it being taped and all of those aspects. But the food issue, there really is nothing the state or the attorneys or anybody really can do about it, because that is what the correctional services decide the menu to be. And if you have a certain medical situation like they have highlighted for him, then it must be made known to not only the chef of the prison, but also to the medical staff, so that we know what kind of food he's supposed to have and that his medication is already readily available for him in the prison.
The consideration around food, how much of it is put forward in the prison system? Because here Thabo Bester says he's a patient with a chronic condition with diabetes, and there's a certain diet that he needs to follow, and if not, it will spike his sugar levels and he could end up very ill.
Well, like I said, that is why he needs to now communicate with correctional services. So it would be incumbent on his attorneys to ensure that they write to the head of the corrections facility to inform him that he's a type A, type 2, whatever the case of diabetes, and then that his menu should be in a certain way, or the foods that are issued or given to him, even though they are standard for everybody, could it be that instead of brown bread, it's white bread, whatever the case may be, so it is well known and that he is taken care of in that aspect. The medical section of the prison will obviously have to have his records, so they know what kind of medicine they need to administer to him, because he cannot have his medicine on him. He has to go to the medical facilities there in the correctional services to assist him with that regard.
Just going back to the phone call matter, we heard Advocate Bester, the prosecutor, saying that the issue around phone calls, I mean, yes, it's his constitutional right, but she was saying to the judge that who knows what other crimes he may be planning by being issued that phone call, which really speaks to a deeper understanding on the kind of mastermind criminal that they are dealing with here.
Yes, that is very true, but unfortunately at this stage he's still presumed innocent. He has not been found guilty of anything. So the fact that he is now facing a charge wherein he orchestrated it whilst behind bars should not be any bearing on his future when he's not yet convicted on that, because that's already giving the presiding officer a different mental aspect on the innocence and guilt of the accused. So already, for me, if I was the defense attorney, I would have stated that the state seems to have concluded that our client is guilty, yet the trial is yet to be heard. Yeah. And by so saying, she is now denying my client his right in terms of Section 35 of the Constitution. So therefore, it should not be presumed that because he's going to be receiving a phone call or making a phone call that he's trying to escape. He has not been found guilty as yet. So that for me was a little bit tricky in terms of how the presiding officer will deal with this matter.
Very well. Thank you so much for weighing in there. Legal expert Nthabiseng Dubazana giving us a sense of what we just saw in the courts there insofar as this Thabo Bester matter is concerned.